We are talking Conjuring Curse. This one is directed by Dustin Ferguson, who is also behind Nemesis 5. Who knew that was still going, but there you have it. And written by Reid. Now, the story focuses on this house, which is kind of like haunted. And ultimately, the story goes through kind of various, up through decades with kind of different people visiting this house. Now, we learn from our kind of first segment that it's kind of has something to do with this kind of witch. I think back in the 20s, I think they said it was. And, it's this kind of witch who, apparently has kind of kidnapped children, and there's this kind of particular kind of cupboard that may have been kind of used to kind of store children, so we speak. And then throughout the movie, we visit different decades, kind of progressing and getting to more modern times, with various people kind of coming to the house, each of them kind of being overcome by this kind of supernatural force that is in this kind of house that presides here. So let's talk Conjuring Curse, a very, very low budget movie, so do not be expecting high production values on this one. I've got to say what worked for me first of all. I thought the idea of having it's a kind of an anthology, but it's kind of really all based on the same property and the same sort of spirit, so to speak, so it kind of isn't different stories. And I quite like the idea of kind of visiting this kind of house every kind of decade with a kind of different set of characters. I actually thought that was quite a kind of a good idea in regards to a concept. Its execution, well, that's what we'll talk about in a minute. But the concept, I think, is quite good. And this movie clearly has pretty much a zero budget. So, I kind of have to give a hat tip to an attempt to make a kind of a horror film using some very kind of rudimentary kind of effects and kind of things happening off screen, and musicians getting attacked by their instruments, things like that. But it's all done in a very lo-fi standard. What doesn't work? Okay, we've got to get into it. So this movie is so low budget. I cannot see this movie appealing to any type of general audience. It's just too low budget, and the kind of the amateurish feel here. It looks like it's been filmed on a phone. To be quite honest with you. The kind of the contrast, the kind of the picture quality is very poor, and it looks to be just filmed on a video phone, if you ask me, and not a great one. Maybe the worst crime of this movie is the filler. This movie is so full of filler. There's no real through plot to this film, because you ultimately just have different characters turning up at this house. There's no real central protagonist. And you just feel that this movie is treading so much water because they don't have stuff to make it to a full-length running time. For example, we have in the 80s section, we have this group of metalheads stop off at this house because they're on the road to a gig or something, and they stop there to kind of get some rest, and they play, we'll have a band practice. They literally just play a whole song. Not just a few seconds of to get the impression, to tell you the audience they're practicing. No, we have to listen to a whole song, and then the kind of the driving sections to the house. There's just way. I mean, it's not a long film to begin with, but you just feel that they are stretching out the kind of scenes to kind of try and get it to a feature-length running time, so they can sell it as a full movie. Although I like the concept of the idea here about kind of visiting a house every kind of 10 years. It plays like an anthology. But the problem is all the stories are more or less the same. It's a bunch of people kind of go to a house and get attacked by a spirit. Rinse and repeat, just in a different decade. So, an anthology movie is is different stories. Sometimes they might have a through theme. But this one is the same house with the same spirits, just attacking different people in kind of different decades. They might die in a different way, but it's the same thing. And I've got to say, along with the low budget kind of like effects and stuff, the whole kind of like look of it is low budget. I've mentioned the kind of the technical side of stuff. The lighting is very poor. The acting is poor. So ultimately, it's a very kind of low budget guerrilla style movie that I don't feel has any appeal to a general audience. If you are a real kind of B-movie aficionado and you just want to you just like low budget horrors, it's kind of like chuck on while you're having a few brewskis and stuff like that, then maybe, like I said, there's a germ of a good idea here, but I feel the execution is particularly kind of like low budget and low brow on this one. So we'll give this one a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.